Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin, and I am a fellow stroke survivor of 11 years. I had a ischemic stroke back on Christmas Eve 2014, and I've just finished my 11th, just starting my 11th year, and working on advocating for the stroke community. There's a lot of questions and answers. So created a podcast through my company, KNSCT, and I'm joined by a fellow stroke survivor from Pennsylvania, and Jessica. How are you, Jessica? Welcome.
Kevin, thank you. Nice to be here. But, like Kevin said, my name is Jessica Sebastian, and I am a fellow stroke survivor of 3 years. I just had my stroke anniversary on January 1st. My event happened on New Year's Day in 2023. So I am 3 years out of my stroke. And, we thought it would be great to come together and provide some resources for our community and, allow a platform for answering questions, things of that nature.
Yeah, Jessica and I met a couple of years ago. I've been running a couple of stroke survivor events. We met in New York back in 2023 at the first event I put together with a partner of mine, Maddie. And since then, we've been friends. Very, very common goal, obviously, is looking at our stroke recovery. So we've called the podcast that we're doing "Stroke of Recovery," "Stroke of Reality." Sorry, and the idea is just to talk about a lot of the questions and thoughts that people are going through. I'm part of a support group with March of Dimes, so I've heard a lot of stories over the last couple of years, and Jessica and I have talked about a lot of different things. So throughout the podcast and future podcasts, we want to look at different things. But today, we're just going to talk about ourselves, just so you get to know us, the audience gets to know who we are and what we've gone through. So, as I mentioned to you, my stroke is 11 years. Didn't have all the big symptoms that come with stroke, and basically had a sore arm. Rushed to the hospital on Christmas Eve and found out that, hey, first of all, I thought I was having a heart attack because I had a sore arm. But then it became they couldn't find anything on the ECG, and then from there on in, we got and looked at another option, and that became the stroke. So as I mentioned, it was an ischemic stroke. I became paralyzed from the moment I had the stroke into Christmas Day. It's basically I couldn't move my whole left side. So my affliction is common with about 80% of the people in stroke survivors that have had it on their left side is more, more where people are having had the hand problems and walking as well. So I've had to relearn everything. My big thing that I didn't get was I didn't get cognitive, which has allowed me to think through a lot of things. And as Jess and I get through these podcasts in the future, we will talk about things like cognitive, and how people adjusted to it, because cognitive can have a big impact on their recovery and what they've been through. So after 11 years, I'm still going through recovery, not a lot, but I still have left hand issues and some walking issues. But I'm very fortunate that I've got about a 90% recovery from my stroke over the last while. And over the last couple of years, as I said, I'm now working with people like organizations like the March of Dimes, and I want to advocate for the stroke survivors and trying to help them get through a lot, especially new people, and trying to get them through what's next. What are you going to go through? So through the podcast in the future, we want to talk about things like that. And I know, Jess, with your story, when we met, you talked about a lot of what you've gone through. So maybe you just want to kind of elaborate in some of your recovery and what you've gone through.
Sure. So I had my stroke 3 years ago. I was 35, which is considered young for a stroke, a stroke survivor. And prior to that, I was a working professional here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the United States. And we should mention that Kevin's in Canada. So a lot of what he'll talk about is in reference to Canada and things of that, and things that are available there versus the United States where I am located. But I was a working professional in Pittsburgh, and had no clue that I also didn't have stroke symptom, traditional stroke symptoms. And my stroke was brought on by a rare genetic disease that I had no idea I had called moya moya. And it is where the main arteries to the brain are restricted and then eventually caused a hemorrhagic stroke. And a hemorrhagic stroke is also known as a brain bleed. So one of the vessels in my brain burst and caused this bleed, which is what affected my left side. So my stroke was on the right side and my left side was also affected like Kevin's. And still, thankfully I am able to walk again, but I'm about 65% recovered. So there's still a long way to go. I suffered significant cognitive deficits as well. So one of the deficit or one of the things that I still suffer from is I yawn periodically without control. So you might see me yawning, and I promise it's not because I'm bored by you, Kevin. It's just an uncontrolled side effect from the stroke. So that's a little bit about me. I live with my partner and my 14-year-old dog, whom I love dearly. And he's actually going to have a birthday here soon on March 2nd, turning 15.
Wow, great. That's great stuff.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I lived I would say a normal young adult life, working, riding my bike in the summer, taking the trails around the rivers here in Pittsburgh. So, yeah, very active and social. And again, then January 1st came in 2023 and took me out.
Yeah, that's I think with everyone that I've experienced in talking in my support groups and just meeting the people we've met back in New York. Yeah, a lot of it is not, I call a stroke the silent assassin because with heart attack, we kind of feel the heart attack. You can, with people that have had them, they have chest pains and they can feel, the hurt. Like myself, I had no idea. Mine was probably caused by being a bit overweight, and stress and things, the normal stuff that people have. The only thing is I did not have the normal symptoms like most people, like the droopy face or speech impairment. Mine was just I rushed to the hospital because I didn't feel well. It was cold out. I took my coat off in the middle of the street because it was hot. So, it was like that. And then, as I said, I went to the hospital. I complained of a sore arm, and everyone relates sore arm to heart attack, especially on my left side. I think both Jess and I have gone through. Mine was my non-dominant side, so part of what we'll talk about in the future too is looking at rehab. But the non-dominant side meant I still had strength in my dominant side, which is great. And I've met a lot of people that have had it on their dominant side. So you really have to relearn everything twice because your weak hand doesn't do everything, and then your dominant hand is now completely shut off and it has to redo everything. So part of our whole podcast is looking at those kind of things. We're going to talk about our lived experiences as stroke survivors and what we've gone through. Yeah, my 11-year experience, I felt it was the time now to talk about what, to expect. And then and every recovery is going to be different. Jess and I are both going through different paths, but she mentioned I am in Canada, so the Canadian healthcare system is a lot different from the U.S. market and how you go through things. And Jess and I will kind of talk about that in the future, what we're doing and what we did and what we're still doing with recovery, because you have to realize that recovery is never going to end in stroke. You have to continue to want to move forward and continue to push yourself to get better. I know when I met Jess, same thing. I mean, I'm sure in the time that we've met and now her recovery's gotten better. And with me, it's the same. It's just we keep daily doing things, and I think it's all part of your recovery, and it's good for your well-being as you go through things.
Mhm.
The other things we want to talk about are, advocacy and what we want to do as stroke survivor community. And I know Jess is doing things still with rehab. I've kind of gotten out of rehab, so a lot of it's on my own. though I do work with a trainer now and then, I still stay in touch with her. Trying to get things like massage therapy and those things. So these are just added pieces that that come with your recovery. With you, Jess, in terms of with the recovery yourself, where do you feel you're really at, and and how do you feel about your recovery up to today?
Yeah, so the reality is stroke recovery is hard. Um, and and I'm sure other recoveries from being, knocked out of the blue, it's hard. So, working through becoming, able-bodied again is tough. And so as far as my recovery, where I'm at is one of my physical therapists explained it perfectly, is I'm at the part where it's like learning a new dance. I just have to keep practicing and keep, repeating exercises and repeating things over and over again until my brain picks it up and says, all right, this is how we box step, or this is how we foxtrot, to use the dancing, analogy again. But it's like learning a new sport is where I'm at. So I just need to keep practicing until I pick it up like it's second nature again. So it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, there's always a long way, and I feel the same. Like still learning to walk and continue to walk. I think one
Oh
of
yeah.
part of my lived experience is I was paralyzed completely on on the left side, the side that was affected, and I had to relearn to walk again. I still have hand issues, and I still need to, work on that. I think the number one thing I think both Jess and I have talked about is balance, and
Oh yeah.
trying to walk and trying to move gracefully without looking like you're like I guess like a tumbling block, or one of those clowns that keep falling over and keep bouncing back up.
The weeble
Those are the things.
wobbles.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the things that we want to talk about in the podcast. We hope you'll join us, on a regular basis, and just we're going to have different stories for you. We want to make sure that the podcast will bring together information that's going to help you in your recovery. As I said, we've been through a lot, and one of the things I've learned advocating in the last couple of years is, there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with their recovery. I know it's very frustrating in its aspects, and we're going to try to walk you through it through our conversations and in what we've done, and hopefully you can take some of this information and use it to better yourself as you move forward in your recovery. I've met people that are actually had strokes longer than me. I was on a podcast yesterday, 14
Wow.
years. And then, I met another one that was 24. And then I'm meeting people that are 1 year, less than a year. I've been in my life, I've had people in the last 6 months, I've had 4 people have a stroke. And I want to talk about that as well, and what they've went through, and we hope to have some of them on our show. And if any of you that are listening want to join us, by all means, send us a note. My email is knsct2021@gmail.com. So you can reach out and talk to us about joining. Send us topics. We will have our Instagram page up. Part of it is with my name, and then just what's yours, Jess, in terms of your Instagram?
There's I have the stroke of reality, and then I have my personal one, which I welcome others to follow and DM me if you have any questions. Which we'll drop those, those profile names and links to our emails, etc., in our profile. So
Yep. Yeah, we'll put them on after our podcast. So just so you know, we'll have it all there for you, and you guys can reach out. Some of the things I just want to talk about, like in terms of some of the topics Jess and I have discussed, and with our team, trying to look at the future. Mental health will be something we'll cover because we both struggled with it and in the initial stages. Rehabilitation is another one. Things that we did to do better. One of the things I can just tell you right now, I still stretch every day because part of it is just the rehab needs to continue. Whether, as I said earlier, it's forever, and you need to continue to do stuff to your body to make sure your recovery just becomes more fluid. We want to look at caregivers. I've had the pleasure of meeting Jess's mom, and she's someone who we want to bring on board just to talk about, her experiences. And I think every caregiver needs to understand you're going through the recovery with everyone else. So we want to get into those. We have other special guests that we want to bring in that have touched our lives in terms of our recovery, people we've worked with, and we'll introduce them as we move forward. Support groups. As I said, I mentioned I'm with the March of Dimes, and I think it's a big part of your recovery. So we want to get into those things and what we've done in terms of working with support groups and being with other lived experience people and other stroke survivors. I know when Jess and I met in New York a couple of years ago, we met about 100 people, caregivers and stroke survivors. And for me, it was very touching. Very hard at the beginning to see all that because you realize that we all have the same afflictions. We're all going through the same recovery, and we probably all have same kind of frustrations. But after talking to them for a while, I really came down to I was happy to meet them and wanted to do whatever we could to help them get better in all different aspects of the recovery. And then there was other people will look at things like maybe Botox and whether you should or shouldn't, what your health care is. This is where Jess and I will talk about maybe the American versus Canadian and what we go through, how our health cares align or don't align when we're trying to get into recovery. And then we welcome all different topics. I mean, they're just some of the things we're working on a full topic for the next year in what we can talk about. The whole plan is for us to have our podcast come up every week, every other week in terms of information, and just follow us, and we'll stay in touch regular on our Instagram pages. And I know part of the process for us is, we're new to this, but we're also lived experience people, and we hope the information we can share is doing that. As I said, Jess and I became really good friends through through our meeting, and part of it is, if we both didn't have a stroke, we probably would have never crossed paths. And I'm blessed to have Jess in my life and be able to share my information, anything that I'm feeling, and I know vice versa with her too. So, you know,
Oh yeah.
with Jess and what she's doing, I'm proud of the fact that she's gotten better, and I'm proud of the fact myself too that I've taken on this the whole experience that I'm going through, and that we could work with other people.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, the Stroke Survivor Club is a shitty club to it's shitty how we get in the club, but the members in the club are amazing. So, uh like Kevin, just to reiterate what Kevin said, we want to be advocates and resources for anyone in the same position that we were in a couple years ago. So any help we can offer, we hope we do. Leave comments and we'll take a look at those. And if you have questions, we'll answer them, so on and so forth. And this is, like I said, a resource for you. And we hope to cover a number of different topics, including, how we were affected. We'll discuss and what recovery looks like, as well as, being advocates for caregivers, being a resource for caregivers, so on and so forth. It's the what next? I had a stroke, now what resource that we want to be. Because we didn't have those resources initially when we both had our stroke. So we hope to change that, with this show and move forward in that way. And so, like Kevin said, I think we're going to go on a biweekly basis. So every other week we'll post another recording, to be effective for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And as just said, we've lived it. 11 years ago, there were no podcasts. There was a lot of different things in stroke recovery. There's a lot of new things that have changed. We want to get into that. As people get stroke, I mean, the complications can be vast. It can go from very, extreme to, people that, even one of my friends just had a stroke, but he had no effects except for one, his eye. And he was blessed that these things happen, but he's far and few between in terms of getting that kind of a stroke. So we realized, Jess and I, through all the people we've encountered, that we want to, you know, deal with the majority and what you've gone through. Not that my friend's eye problem isn't, he lost his license, and he's learning to do the eye. He's doing some eye testing to try to get his vision back. So we want to get into all these different things. And it's just said we welcome all questions. We will face them head on with you. I think it's important people understand that what you have is not, there are no dumb questions in this process. We are in a community that no one else is really part of, and thank God for that. I mean, when I was doing part of my research for my book, there are over 100 million people globally who've had a stroke, which I looked at is if you have the average family of 4 people in each family, you're looking at 400 million people affected by stroke. So we want to really, reach out to all of you and just let you know we're on the journey with you, and that
Mhm.
our journey that we've been through has been rough, and we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, and we want to share that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. That though you seem hopeless or you're frustrated at this point, or maybe beyond that hopefully our podcast might help you see that there are things going on. And moving forward, we just want to link up with people. I've done a couple of live events. So one of my visions for Canada and the US again is to continue to meet people live. I think it's important that people try to get together. And I know there are a lot of different community groups, and we want to reach out to these community groups and join them or help them in terms of getting more information out to people. So anyways, so that's on the podcast, our first one that we're having. Jess, a pleasure as always to talk with you.
You
Any
too.
last words before we sign off for today?
Yeah, I think just a reminder that you are in Canada and March of Dimes, that organization that Kevin refers to is Canadian specific for stroke recovery. It's completely different in the United States. So don't Google that if you're in the United States. Uh, but feel free to ask Kevin about it at your leisure. And for more stroke facts, in the United States annually, there are about close to 800,000 people that suffer from stroke annually. And specifically in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, there are between 2 to 3,000 people that suffer from stroke per year. Isn't that
Wow.
wild?
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's all I have for you today.
perfect. So until next time, we appreciate you listening to our podcast, and we definitely look forward to working and talking with you in the future. A lot of the information we talk about, like our Instagram pages and our websites, will be on our in the information on the posting. So look down below to click on it, and we look forward to working with you down the road. So from myself and Jess, thanks very much for joining us for our first podcast, and we look forward to talking to you and listen and having you listen to our stories moving forward. And then hopefully we'll meet one day.
Yep.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care, Jess.